Example 1. Simplify each of the following. Part 1. 2x minus 3y plus 4 minus 3x plus 5y minus 2. And part 2. 3x squared minus 2xy plus y squared minus 5xy plus x squared minus 3y squared. Part 1. So step 1 is we circle the x terms. So we circle the 2x and the minus 3x. Make sure you include the minus or you will go wrong. Then in our rough work, 2x minus 3x is minus 1x. Step 2, box the y terms. So minus 3y, we put a box around it, and plus 5y. Again, make sure you put a box around the minus. And then in our rough work, minus 3y plus 5y gives us 2y, because minus 3 plus 5 is 2. Notice that the powers don't change. And I know you can't see any powers, but x on its own, for example, is really x to the power of 1. So 2x is really 2x to the power of 1. And minus 3x is really minus 3x to the power of 1. And the answer is minus 1x to the power of 1. So the powers don't change. So just be very, very careful, because when you're adding and subtracting like terms, the powers don't change. However, if we're multiplying or dividing, the powers do change. Step 3, add or subtract the constants. So 4 minus 2 gives us 2. Step 4, put them together with plus or minus in between. So we have minus 1x plus 2y plus 2. And this is our simplified answer. Part 2. Step 1, we draw in invisible ones. So we have an invisible 1 in front of the y squared. And we have an invisible 1 with the x squared. So if you see a letter on its own, we know there's automatically an invisible 1 in front of it. Part 2, circle the x squared terms. So we've got 3x squared and plus 1x squared. And in our rough work, 3x squared plus 1x squared is 4x squared. So again, the powers don't change when adding or subtracting like terms. You have to learn this off by heart. In algebra, the powers don't change when adding or subtracting like terms. Step 3, box the y squared terms. So we have plus 1y squared minus 3y squared. Again, be very, very careful with the minus 3y squared. Make sure you put a box around the minus as well, or you will go wrong. Then in our rough work, 1y squared minus 3y squared is minus 2y squared, because 1 minus 3 is minus 2. And again, the powers don't change, so it stays as squared, because we're just adding and subtracting like terms. We're not multiplying or dividing. So when we're adding or subtracting like terms, the powers do not change. Next, we're going to underline the xy terms. So we have minus 2xy minus 5xy gives us minus 7xy. So minus 2 minus 5 is minus 7, and then we just stick on the xy. Step 5, put them together with plus or minus in between. So we have 4x squared minus 2y squared minus 7xy. And this is our simplified answer. Example 2, part 1. Remove the brackets and simplify. Bracket 2x minus 3 bracket x plus 5 bracket. So what we're going to do here is do 2x minus 3 multiplied by x plus 5. So everything inside the first bracket multiplied by everything inside the second bracket. And that's because in maths, brackets mean multiply. And then part 2, hence, so using your answer from part 1, simplify 2 times 3x squared minus 2x plus 4 minus multiplied by 2x minus 3 times x plus 5. Hopefully you notice that these are the exact same. So if we work out the answer to part 1, then we can skip a few steps and just put that answer in here in place of these two sets of brackets. So it'll save us a bit of time. So let's just do part 1 for now. So remove the brackets. Another way to say this is expand the brackets. Remove the brackets and simplify. So we write out our two sets of brackets. I like to call these two eggs. We're going to put a crack inside the first egg. So we crack open the first egg. That's our first step. We do not crack open the second egg. The 2x falls out of the egg because we cracked it open. So the 2x falls down. And then we stick on the second egg. So we did not put a crack into the second egg, so that stays intact with the brackets. That's very important. It stays intact with the brackets, and we just stick it onto the 2x. Remember, we did crack open the first egg, so if the 2x fell down, then the -3 will also fall down. So the -3 falls down, and then we stick on the second egg. So again, the second egg stays intact, so the brackets stay around it. So we have x plus 5 with brackets around it. So once we've done this, the next thing we're going to do is just multiply out all the brackets. So step 6, multiply out the brackets. So we're going to do 2x multiplied by x, which will give us 2x squared. So in our rough work, 2x multiplied by x is really 2x to the power 1 multiplied by x to the power 1. And 1 plus 1 gives us 2. So that's where the squared comes from. So remember I said that when we're adding and subtracting like terms, the powers do not change. Well, when we're multiplying, the powers do change. And the rule is, when you're multiplying powers with the same base, you add the powers. When you're multiplying powers with the same base, you add the powers. So 1 plus 1 makes 2. Then we do 2x multiplied by 5, which gives us 10x. And in our rough work, 2x multiplied by 5 is 10x. And then -3 multiplied by x is -3x. And the reason for that is a number times a letter, we stick them together. So -3 times x is -3x. And then -3 by 5 is -15. So step 7, simplify, which means add or subtract the like terms. So you can only add or subtract terms that have the same letter and the same power. So we cannot add x squareds with x's because they're not the exact same. So the only things that we can put together here are the 10x and the -3x because they have the same letter and the same power. So the power is really 1. X on its own is really x to the power of 1. We just can't see it. It's an invisible power of 1. So 10x minus 3x is 7x. And then all we have to do is bring down the 2x squared and the -15. And that's our answer. So here is our answer simplified, 2x squared. That should say plus 7x minus 15. Now, this expression is called a quadratic trinomial. And the reason for this is the highest power of x that we have is the 2x squared. So squared is the highest power of x. So therefore, this is a quadratic expression. So that's where the quadratic part comes from. And then trinomial, it's known as a trinomial because there's 3 terms. There's 2x squared plus 7x minus 15. So trinomial means 3 terms. And if we were to draw this out on a graph as a function, it would form a U-shaped graph because the highest power of x is 2. So it's 2x squared and it's positive. So it would form a U-shaped graph. If this 2x squared was negative, it would form an N-shaped graph. And if there was no 2x squared at all, if the answer was 7x minus 15, then our answer would be a straight line. So hence, which means using what you just worked out in part 1, simplify 2 times 3x squared minus 2x plus 4 minus times 2x minus 3 times x plus 5. So hence means using what you worked out previously. So previously we worked out in part 1 that 2x minus 3 multiplied by x plus 5 is 2x squared plus 7x minus 15. So we can skip a few steps and just literally replace this with this. Make sure you've got brackets around it though, because there's a minus in front. So in a few minutes, we're going to have to multiply that minus into the brackets. So if you were to forget the brackets, the whole thing would go wrong. So we bring down the 2, the bracket, the 3x squared, the minus 2x, the plus 4, the other bracket, the minus, and we make sure we put brackets around the 2x squared plus 7x minus 15. So step 1, multiply out the brackets. So 2 times 3x squared is 6x squared. So in our rough work, 2 times 3x squared is 6x squared. And then 2 multiplied by minus 2x is minus 4x. And in our rough work, 2 times minus 2x is minus 4x. And then 2 multiplied by 4 is 8. Next, we're going to multiply in this minus. Minus multiplied by 2x is minus 2x squared. So the sign just flips to the opposite sign when you're multiplying in a minus. And then minus times 7x is minus 7x. And then minus times minus 15 is plus 15. So minus by minus is a plus. So if you multiply in a minus, then whatever's on the inside of the brackets, each sign just flips to the opposite sign. So positive becomes minus and minus becomes positive. Step 2, simplify, which means to add or subtract the like terms. So we're going to circle the x squareds and make sure that you include the minus here, or you will go wrong. And 6x squared minus 2x squared gives us 4x squared. Then we put a box around the x's. Make sure you include the minuses. So minus 4x minus 7x. So if they're the same sign, we add them and then we keep the sign. So 4 plus 7 is 11, and we keep the sign, which is a minus. So we get minus 11x. And then we're going to add the constants. 8 plus 15 is 23. And then we just put our 3 answers together with pluses or minuses in between them. So we get 4x squared minus 11x plus 23. And this is our simplified answer.